Yes, so Priya, so let's continue ahead with control and coordination. And in the previous lecture, we had completed the first part of the lesson that was about nervous system. Okay, the name of the lesson, that is control and coordination, is actually the functions of two systems in the human body, that is nervous system and endocrine system. Okay, today we have to continue with the next part of the lesson, that is about chemical coordination. Okay, so talking about control and coordination as the function. So it is brought about nervous system. How it is done, we have already seen that, correct? And the next thing that we have to understand is chemical coordination. So in short, in our body, there are lots of chemicals which are produced, which also carry out the similar function, that is coordination of the different parts of the body, as well as keeping a control between them. Okay. Now, see, basically when you say chemical coordination, there are ways in which organisms, between organisms, or within organisms, there are communication signals between them. So they are in the form of chemicals. So we call them as chemical signals.
Oh, how cool.
Okay. So chemical signals within cells or within organisms are of four types. First one is called autocrines. Autocrines means there are some cells that release some secretion which will stimulate the same cell. Okay, to keep on functioning. Auto matlab kya? Self. So some secretion that will stimulate that same.
Okay.
That is called autocrine. Okay. Paracrine. Paracrine ka matlab hai, if there is one cell which will secrete something, it will stimulate the other neighboring cells around.
Oh.
And then it is called paracrine. So I will secrete something, my neighbor will get stimulated. Then it is called.
Wait, autocrine is?
Autocrine is self.
Self. Paracrine is
surrounding cells.
Surrounding. Yes. Okay, got it.
Then there is something called endocrines.
Endocrine.
Endocrines means the cells will release something which will stimulate some cells which are located far away in the body, somewhere else. So if there is secretion, listen, if there is some secretion in the head region of the body, the stimulus will be available to the cells which might be in the lower part of the body, somewhere else.
Whoa.
Not the neighboring cells also. Autocrine means self, paracrine means neighboring, endocrine means far away.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Then there are pheromones, the fourth type.
Means
it is not within the same body also. One organism will secrete something which will stimulate some other organism somewhere. So pheromones, you must have learned this in the case of insects. They secrete pheromones. Do you know that? It's like, example, in the case of honeybees. It is said one honeybee is caught, and if it is in danger, it will release pheromones. So there will be lots of other honeybees from somewhere which will come and try to save this honeybee. So there are secretions which can send messages.
Okay. Oh, yes, I remember. Okay, wait, I remember.
Sometimes it is seen that even the females of the insects, they secrete pheromones which will attract the males of the same insect. It will be a message.
Yes.
Getting it? Yes. ऐसे करके चार के secretions होते हैं. Autocrine, paracrine, endocrine, pheromones. Okay. So now in the case of higher animals, including human beings, it becomes a necessity because the human system is so complex that there has to be proper regulation within the body.
Yes.
So the head should know what the leg is doing, the stomach should know what the liver is doing, and some regulation should be there. That's why the entire organism will function as a system, one system. Correct? There are some cases where two organs can work independently also, but it is ultimately within the same system. That's why for carrying out coordination and for proper control within the organs, there is something called as endocrine system that we have.
Endocrine system.
Okay, so
Yes.
endocrine system means, see, there are two types of glands. I'll show you this way. Whenever you say the word
Gland.
gland का मतलब है any such organ, mostly it is a spherical one, any such organ which will pour out a secretion, that secretion will stimulate some other cells in the body for their function. So there are two types of glands that we have. One is
Endocrine gland.
exocrine gland and the
Exocrine.
endocrine gland.
Yeah.
का मतलब है a gland which will have its own ducts to pour out the secretion.
Yes, correct. Duct.
Then it is called exocrine.
Yes.
Endocrine means the gland will not have a duct.
Yes, correct.
Ductless glands.
Ductless gland.
So
Yeah.
whatever is secreted inside will diffuse outside into the blood. But it
Yes.
moves to the other part. So it won't have a duct. Then we call it endocrine glands. So here in this chemical coordination part, we have to learn only about the endocrine glands. Exocrine glands mostly do not involve in chemical coordination.
Okay, got it.
So here when you endocrine glands, they secrete something called as hormones.
Hormones. Yes, I know.
Like, see, the broad topic was chemical coordination. Within chemical coordination, first we have seen the four types of secretions. Then we understood the function as coordination, within which we have seen exocrine and endocrine. And then we have understood that in order to bring about control and coordination, the system that is needed is endocrine system.
Endocrine system. Yes.
Coordination aside, we are focusing on endocrine. Okay?
Okay.
Main part is hormones.
Hmm.
So whenever these hormones are nothing but hormones को हम लोग simply बोलते हैं chemical messengers. Is what you are doing.
Chemical messengers. Oh yeah.
Okay, they are chemicals having different compounds and they are messengers. They carry some message to different parts of the body. That's why we call them as chemical messengers. And they are produced by endocrine glands. And wherever they are produced, in whichever glands they are produced, they are directly diffused out into the blood. So it is the blood which carries the hormones to different parts of the body.
Oh, okay.
Hormones are having their own properties. Okay, every hormone has got its own set of functions. Every hormone is produced by a certain endocrine gland. Okay, we will see the properties first. But before that, let us take a look at the chemical nature. Okay, what are these hormones ultimately made up of? Chemical. Okay, so there are different groups of chemicals which can make up the protein and the hormones. Firstly, hormones can be amines.
Amine.
Okay, so they are simple. Yeah, this is one chemical group. Okay, so there are some hormones like catecholamines.
Sir. Okay, fine. Catecholamines.
Catecholamines, which is secreted by adrenal medulla. Now we have an endocrine gland called the adrenal gland. We are going to learn that in detail. In that adrenal gland, there are two regions, medulla and cortex. So from the medulla region of adrenal gland, this is produced, which is chemically made up of amines. Okay.
Okay.
When discussing about the brain, you remember we spoke about pineal gland.
Pineal gland. Oh yes, I remember.
Correct. So there two hormones are produced, epinephrine and non-epinephrine, and also melatonin. They are
okay, got it. Okay, got it.
some of these hormones, they are modified from the amino acids. Like amino acids are converted to amines and then these hormones are produced. So for that, the example is thyroxine, which is produced by our thyroid gland. We are going to learn that in detail.
Okay, got it.
So amines is one group. Remember the examples: catecholamines, epinephrine, norepinephrine, melatonin, thyroxine. Only four examples.
Okay,
Okay?
correct.
Next one, peptide hormones.
Peptide hormones.
Yes. Okay. So peptide means, you know very well, whenever two or more amino acids are linked to each other chemically, there is a peptide.
Peptide bond. Yes, correct.
Peptide hormones होते हैं which are consisting of long या short chains of amino acids.
Yes.
So, hormones which are produced from hypothalamus. Do you remember this? Brain के बारे में
Hypothalamus.
Gland made up of three parts: epithalamus, thalamus, and hypothalamus. Correct?
Hypothalamus. Yes. ऐसा तीन. Yeah.
Oxytocin, ADH, and GnRH. We will learn this in detail. Examples of naam yaad rakho, because we are going to learn all the hormones. Okay, right now we cannot go directly into the details of the hormones. Example just learn kar le. ठीक है?
Okay.
Chemically
Okay.
they are made up of peptide hormones. That is second group. Third group of hormone, which is the maximum, and they are protein hormones.
Protein hormone.
Yes, that means they are made up of proteins. Okay.
Yeah.
You have insulin, glucagon, TSH, FSH, LDH, GH, relaxin, just example. We'll go to the details of these hormones. Okay. Some hormones can be derivatives of fatty acids.
Derivatives of fatty acids.
From fatty acids, which are the breakdown products of lipids. From the fatty acids, these hormonal components are derived. So they are associated with fats. So example, prostaglandin, which is one of the reproductive hormones. Okay, called as prostaglandin. We will see all the hormones. They are going to be really interesting. Okay, so let us take the gland wise. है ना? अभी सिर्फ नाम देखना. Then you have steroid hormones.
Steroid hormones.
So they are made up of steroids which are derived from cholesterol and are soluble in lipids. So they are high molecular weight compounds.
Yes.
So example आएगा again the sex hormones like estrogen, testosterone.
Testosterone. Hey, okay, I know things.
Male sex hormone. Testosterone is the male sex hormone.
Testosterone. Yes.
Testosterone. Okay. So they are concerned with long-lasting responses. Okay, steroid hormones. And then some cases the hormones can be having gases like nitric oxide also. Very rare.
Nitric oxide?
Gases भी होते हैं in the hormone.
Oh, okay.
So these are the chemical composition of these hormones.
Oh, wow. Okay, fine.
Yeah. When you talk about hormones in general, what are their properties? As I said, they are chemical messengers. Okay, and hormones are produced within endocrine glands, and that too in very low concentration. We don't need to amounts of the hormone. They are produced in less concentration, but they are very effective in that concentration.
Okay, got it.
And they also function as regulators. That means some hormones are produced only to stimulate other endocrine glands to produce their hormones.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh, okay, got it.
Okay, take it like this. Okay, for example, now in the school or the college, in the school or college, you are the student, there is a teacher, and there is a principal.
Yes, there is.
So if you don't do your work properly, if you don't do your studies properly, first who will scold you?
Teacher.
Teacher. The teacher will scold you, right? You will not scold your teacher, correct? So the teacher scold you. If after the teacher scolds you, still you do not do the work properly, then what is the next step taken by the teacher? One step above, that is
principal.
Suppose in some cases, if you are doing your work, but the teacher is not doing the work well, the teacher is not teaching properly or whatever,
Nice.
then what do you do? What nice? Then what do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah, you can approach whom? Principal.
Okay.
Correct? You have the right to approach. Okay, I'm not satisfied with so and so teacher. Whatever.
Yes.
So the principal will then act as a regulator to stimulate the teacher, do your job well.
Oh, Okay. Got it. Okay.
With this one. We have
Okay.
one principal gland in our body. Then there are many other teacher glands.
Okay. Got it.
Hormones.
Got it. Got it.
You understood
Got
that?
it.
So everyone
Yes.
has to do their work properly. Only then there will be proper coordination. Getting it? So sometimes
Yeah.
it will be required. Regulator, matlab it is not always to stimulate. Sometimes it's like some hormones might be overworking also. तो उसको थोड़ा
और
जरूरत से ज्यादा काम करना.
Okay.
So that can also be dangerous for the body.
Dangerous for yes, of course.
Yes. Okay. Both the extremes are bad. If it doesn't work at all, or if it works too much. So there has to be a balance. So if it is not working at all, it has to be stimulated. If it is working too much, it has to be inhibited.
Okay, correct.
Getting it? Now,
Getting it.
some hormones, what happens is when they reach, hormones have something called as a target cell.
Target cell.
As I said,
एक particular cell पे
उसी पे उसका effect दिखेगा.
Okay, yes.
So hormones will be produced in one part of the body, but their effect will be seen in some other part of the body. So wherever it shows the effect, वो उसका target cell. वो उसका target cell.
Oh, okay.
So
This is so.
hormones produced in one part of the body will be secreted, poured into the blood, via blood go to the target cell. On the surface of the target cell, there will be receptors present.
Okay,
So
got it.
receptors will identify that hormone कि ये hormone इधर का ही है, ये target cell है, and then it will do the work.
अगर उधर का नहीं है तो?
उधर का नहीं है तो target cell पहचाने गई. Can you open any lock with any key? You can't. So there is a specific pairing, no? Same way over here.
Okay, wow. Oh, wow.
Receptors for only few enzymes. That is where the enzyme hormone can work.
Okay, got it.
So if the target cell is there, there will be receptors on it. Hormones will enter the cell, and then it will modify the gene action.
Gene action.
The respective effect will be brought about. Okay.
Got it.
Sometimes
Yes.
hormones are secreted in more than required quantities. So we call it hyposecretion. Or they can be
Hypersecretion.
less than required quantities. So hyposecretion.
Hyper. Got it.
A hypersecretion or a hyposecretion both can lead to various disorders.
Of course.
Now, in this lesson, when we are learning about these hormones, for each one, first we will understand the normal functions, and then we will see what kind of disorders can happen if they are secreted less or they are secreted more.
Okay, got it.
Hormonal disorders. Okay, and as foretold in this first point, they are produced by endocrine glands in very low concentration, and they are effective in that. Okay, so once the effect of the hormone is over, their job is over, they are metabolized, their function is over, they are degraded.
Yes. Metabolized.
That's the reason they cannot be reused. Once it is done, it will reach the target cell, bring about the effect, and it's over. That hormone is simply metabolized. उसके बाद अगर फिर से effect चाहिए तो for again the new hormone will be produced.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Produce only is required, otherwise they are not produced. So that's why it's something called positive or negative feedback mechanism.
What is that?
Mechanism means simply, like back to that example, you as a student, if you do your work properly, the teacher doesn't have to do much work for you.
Samjha. Okay.
But if you're not doing your job properly, the teacher has to stimulate you.
Yes.
In the correlation,
हाँ, yeah.
hormone अपना काम ठीक से कर रहा है तो प्रिंसिपल को कुछ बोलने की जरूरत नहीं है, और अगर नहीं कर रहे हैं तो स्टिमुलेशन देना पड़ेगा. That's a feedback you are giving. So
Positive, negative. Okay, got it. Got it.
Feedback mechanism. Understood the properties of hormones?
Okay, easy. Got it.
No doubt.
Yes, properly.
Okay.
No doubt. Yes.
Okay. Now, mechanism of hormone action. I'll show you. Yeah, see this. What happens is whenever the hormones, as I said, they are released in very small quantity and they are transported via blood to the receptors or the target cells. I mean, on the plasma membrane of the target cells, there are the hormone receptors present.
Yes.
Okay, so these hormone receptors, they can be at two different locations. Either they can be on the cell membrane or they can be intracellular. That means inside the cell, not on the membrane.
Huh?
There can be two possibilities.
Inside the cell.
The receptor I'm telling, which will identify the hormone. That can be
Okay. Got it.
on the membrane or it can be present inside the membrane, intracellular. In both the cases, the hormone receptor complex is formed. The hormone molecule has to bind to the receptor and there is a complex formed. Only then its function will be achieved.
Okay. Got it.
Whether it's
Okay.
on the plasma membrane or whether it is inside the cell.
Okay.
Right? So
Got
we
it.
both the mechanisms one by one. So first thing is mode of the hormone action through membrane receptors. That means if the receptors are present on the membrane.
On the memory.
Okay.
Okay.
So there are certain amines, peptides, hormones which are not soluble in the lipids. And plasma membrane ultrastructure, if you remember, we had learnt about it in the cell organization last year. In the ultrastructure of
Yes.
fluid mosaic model, if you remember, plasma
Mhm.
membrane
I know the drawing.
by layer of lipids.
Oh, correct. Yes.
If the
Yeah.
hormone molecule has to enter the lipids, it has to dissolve a portion of the lipid membrane. The hormone is not a lipid soluble one. It cannot enter through the membrane.
Yes.
So there are
Correct.
hormones like catecholamines, peptides, and polypeptide hormones which are not lipid soluble. That's why
Yeah.
they cannot enter the target cells. They are non-steroid water-soluble hormones.
Oh.
Plasma membrane surface does not have water molecules. It has got lipid molecules. Correct? So such hormones have to interact with surface receptor because
Correct.
these hormone molecules, when they reach the plasma membrane, they find that अरे यहाँ पे lipid molecules हैं. And the
Yes.
hormones are not soluble in lipids.
Yeah.
They dissolve it and enter the cell. So they can only knock on the door कि हमें अंदर आने दो.
Yes.
Yeah. So on that plasma membrane surface, there are these receptors present. तो दरवाजे पे कोई security guard होगा. कौन है?
Oh, nice. Okay, got it. Okay. Wow.
So the
Okay, got it.
hormones will show, I am this so and so hormone. I want to
Yes. Okay, got it.
security guard will identify. Okay, that's a receptor. The hormone and the receptor will shake their hands. Okay, hormone receptor complex ready. Getting
Okay,
it
got it.
right this
Yes,
time.
getting it.
I'm just making you understand in a simpler way. Okay?
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Hormone receptor complex is formed inside the cell. From the receptor, there will be an enzyme called adenylate cyclase produced.
Oh my god. Adenylate cyclase.
The hormone knocked on the door, security guard, the receptor came, they identified each other, they shook the hands. As soon as the hands were shaken, the complex was produced. From that receptor inside the cell, this enzyme was released.
Yes. Which enzyme?
Adenylate cyclase.
Adenylate cyclase. Okay.
Okay. This enzyme, what is the role of this enzyme now? This enzyme will form something called cyclic AMP. From
AMP.
ATP, you know.
Adenosine triphosphate.
Correct. From that adenosine triphosphate, it has got 3 phosphate atom molecules. So two
Correct.
will be broken down. It will really be left with adenosine monophosphate.
Okay, okay, got it. Yes.
So that is called as a cyclic AMP. तो जैसे ही रिसेप्टर
साइक्लिक एएमपी इसमें कौन सा?
सेल के अंदर एटीपी को रहता ही है.
हाँ, करेक्ट.
So that ATP is used, broken down, cyclic AMP is produced, for which the enzyme needed is adenylate cyclase. And the enzyme comes when two people are shaking their hands.
Got it. Yes.
So this
Understood.
AMP, in short we call it CAMP.
CAMP.
Okay, they will activate enzymatic action within the cell. Further enzymatic actions.
Okay, acha.
It's like the hormone which came till the membrane was the first messenger.
Yes.
Because of the hormone, it was the first messenger which came from outside.
Yes.
But because of hormone inside the cell, CAMP was produced.
Correct.
Then that CAMP is the second messenger.
Oh yes, correct.
It's produced because of the first messenger. So since CAMP is one of the messengers, in some other cells, instead of CAMP, it can also be calcium ions or it can be CG.
Oh, okay, I know. Yes.
Inositol triphosphate. It is not necessary that in every cell it would be CAMP only.
Correct. Yes.
That's how this mechanism works. See this in the flow chart. The hormone came. Example say FSH. Okay, for now just understand FSH is a reproductive hormone which is secreted from the pituitary gland of the brain. Pituitary gland is stimulating the ovaries in the female, okay, by producing this FSH.
Correct.
Pituitary में से FSH आया, via blood it got transported, reach the ovary.
Okay.
ये ovary का membrane समझ लो. Okay, so FSH came from outside. On the membrane of the ovary, this receptor is there. Such and receptor by shaking hands, complex तैयार हो गया. So the first response was generated by producing cyclic AMP. Or it can. So because of this cyclic AMP inside the ovary, another biochemical response was generated. Another reaction took place, because of which ovarian growth or the further hormone production by ovary started.
Okay, got it.
Over here seen in this mechanism, the hormone molecule is not entering the cell. It is only reaching the wall of the cell and knocking on the door and saying अंदर अपना काम बराबर करो.
Yes, correct.
That is the first mechanism. Is
okay, got it. Clear.
Is it clear properly? Okay. Then second mechanism now you see. Second mechanism is mode of action through intracellular receptors. Okay, intracellular means the hormone molecule will be able to enter the cell. So the hormone molecule over here reaches the plasma membrane. We are talking about the second mechanism where the receptors are located inside the cell.
Oh yes, correct. Inside the cell. This one.
So here the hormone molecules are able to enter the cell because they are lipid soluble. The cell membrane has got a phospho.
Okay, that wasn't lipid soluble.
Yes, because that's the reason they enter the cell, no? So steroid hormones and thyroid hormones, they are the lipid soluble ones. So they can easily pass through the plasma membrane and enter the cytoplasm. So now in the cytoplasm of the cell, there are these intracellular receptor proteins.
The voice is breaking.
Am I audible now?
No, you're audible. Beach में कट रहा है.
Yeah. So inside the cytoplasm, they will be able to, they will be binding to some intracellular receptor protein molecules.
Intracellular receptor protein molecule.
Correct. So there will be that complex form, hormone receptor complex. It is found in both the cases. Now this
Correct.
complex which is formed, okay, that
Complex is formed from.
in the
Oh
cytoplasm.
yes. Correct.
The
Yes.
complex is formed in the cytoplasm. See, earlier case में क्या हुआ कि the hormone came, knocked on the door, the receptor was the security guard on the door. There itself they have shaken hands. Here
Yeah.
what is
Correct.
the door is open. Okay, so the hormone was able to enter inside and the security was standing in the cytoplasm. There they formed the complex.
Yeah.
And once the complex
Okay. Got it.
once the complex was formed, this complex together entered the nucleus of the cell.
Nucleus of the cell. Okay. Got
Directly
it.
cell के nucleus में चला गया complex. And in the
Yes.
nucleus, there is a DNA.
Yes. Correct.
Nucleic
You're right.
acids, correct? So on the
Yes.
DNA, there will be certain regulatory sites.
What is a regulatory site?
Regulatory site means like if suppose that particular cell has to produce a certain hormone.
Hmm.
So the production of the hormone must be regulated by something. Okay, whether
Oh, that is hormone.
produced or not. So that site there on the DNA, some set of nucleus.
Okay.
So this
Okay.
complex will bind to that regulatory site. The DNA will get stimulated, and those activated genes will produce an mRNA. You must be remembering production of mRNA.
Yes.
DNA is transcription.
Yes.
This will come and bind to that regulatory site. mRNA formation will take place. mRNA will ultimately get translated to form a protein. Protein will ultimately give rise to an enzyme. That enzyme will be ultimately functioning as the formation of the respective hormone. Or whatever
Okay. Got it.
to be done by the cell.
Wait. Can you repeat again? I got confused.
Okay. See, look at this diagram now. Okay. See, we call this hormone that is estrogen. We say the lipid soluble hormones are able to cause this mechanism.
Yes. Correct.
Then it will come to the cell membrane. Okay.
Huh?
The cell membrane of the uterus.
Correct.
Uterus is the female reproductive or one of the female reproductive organs. Okay. Has a wall around it, which is called the endometrium.
Endometrium.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this hormone estrogen comes to the uterus. In the cell membrane, it is able to enter the uterus.
Oh yes.
In the
Correct.
cytoplasm, it will bind to the receptor, forming a complex.
Correct. Yes.
This complex will enter the nucleus of the uterine cell.
Where there is a DNA.
On the DNA, there will be a specific regulatory site.
Regulatory site. Yes. Correct.
Complex will bind
Oh,
to
उसमें stimulate हो जाएगा.
it will stimulate the formation of an mRNA. Transcription
Yes.
happen. Further translation will take place to form the proteins. Proteins will catalyze the give rise to an enzyme, due to which there will be a physiological response. Wall of the endometrium will grow according to the menstrual cycle. You know that. Okay.
Yes.
Wall of the endometrium will grow in thickness, or it will destroy in thickness. That will be resulted because of this.
Oh, okay, got it.
Understood
Got
the
it, got it.
mechanism of the hormone action in both
Yes.
domains.
Yes, understood.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
With this background about endocrine glands and the hormones, okay, let us look at the different major endocrine glands in our body.
Endocrine glands.
Yes, we have many endocrine glands in our body spread out in different parts, and
Okay.
almost all the glands are common to males and females except for the reproductive glands, which are unique in males and females. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Head region. What is this gland? Can you tell me?
Brain.
This is
Brain.
brain is not a gland. Come on, you have to tell the name of the gland. We have already heard this name earlier, if you remember. Pituitary gland.
But this is pituitary gland. Yes,
Pituitary
correct.
gland. This one is pituitary gland. You can make a note of that later if you want. Okay. Just see the locations. We are going to discuss each one of them. ये देखो, this
Okay.
is neck or the throat region. ये कौन सा gland है? Again, you can say common for males and females.
Yes, it is common for males and females. इधर आता है which gland?
Some
Pass.
past gland again. Something with T. Tomato.
Huh?
Something with the letter
Something.
thyroid
T.
gland.
Thyroid gland. Oh yes, the
Thyroid
thyroid.
gland.
Yes.
Okay. Below that, in the chest region near the heart, this is another common gland between male and female. What is this?
Heart gland. No, wait. I will tell you.
Namely, thymus. THY.
Thymus.
Yes, thymus gland.
मैंने सुना.
The heart.
Wait, I know
Okay,
this.
we'll see the details. First, see the names.
Thymus.
It's the thymus gland. Okay. Then you come down. You can see these two
Kidney.
structures, the kidneys. Above the kidney, you can see
Yes.
small white triangular one. दिख रहा है?
Oh, yes, I can see it.
वो है adrenal gland.
Adrenal gland. Oh yes, udhar adrenal.
Ad means above, renal मतलब kidney. So glands located
Yes.
above the kidney. Okay.
Correct.
Then
Yes.
below that, now you can see here, this is a gland exclusively for females. What is this gland?
Correct. What is this gland?
Ovaries.
Huh?
They are the ovaries.
Yes, correct.
Glands का नाम है ovaries है.
Oh, ovary gland. Oh, sir.
And here, this is only for the males. These are the testicles.
Yes, yes. Oh yes, I know.
Okay. So in case there is one more which is not marked over here. You can see here
Okay.
yellow liver के नीचे
Huh?
pancreas.
Oh, pancreatic glands.
Pancreatic enzymes होते हैं digestion के लिए.
Yes,
That is
correct.
part of pancreas. But pancreas is the only organ which is exocrine as well as endocrine.
Correct. You are right. Yes.
Pancreas is an endocrine part also.
Yes.
Major endocrine glands which you should know. Now for each one we have to start learning about their location, the structure, the functions and the different hormones which are produced, having their own
Okay.
functions,
Oh my
and
God. Okay.
there is hyposecretion or hypersecretion.
Hyper. Yes, you're right.
That to learn for each one. Okay.
Okay. Fine.
Now, talking about the glands, let's start discussing about the major endocrine glands.
Mhm.
We have seen while we were discussing about the brain
Yes.
that there is one part of the brain, that time I said, if you remember, that it is the connection between nervous system and endocrine system. Do you remember that?
Nervous system and endocrine system. Oh yes. Yes.
That was
I
the
remember. You told-
hypothalamus. It is
Hypothalamus. I remember. Yes.
the epsilon, floor of the diaphragm, you know that.
Huh. Yes.
So this is the one which is actually,
Oh yes. China.
okay, this is the most highest authority for all the endocrine glands. It is a part of the nervous system. It's a part of the brain. So this function of the hypothalamus is to control the secretory activity of pituitary gland.
Oh, control.
Normally, pituitary gland is called as the master gland of the body. But
Yes.
hypothalamus is the one which controls the pituitary also.
Okay, got it.
Getting it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like in a school, we say principal is the highest authority. That's
Yeah.
right. But principal के ऊपर भी authority होता है. School का director.
Correct.
Okay. So they may not be
Yeah.
a school, but they are there.
Yes, correct.
सेम है यहाँ पर, ये पूरा एंडोक्राइन सिस्टम का डायरेक्टर है.
Okay, got it. Yes.
Hormones of the hypothalamus, they are all peptide hormones.
Peptide hormones. Oh, peptide hormones. Yes.
Hypothalamus क्या करते हैं? Its function is to stimulate the pituitary gland.
Correct.
कैसे करेगा? Either by releasing hormones या inhibiting hormones.
Okay. Yes.
If the hypothalamus produces a release hormone, pituitary will be stimulated to release a hormone. If it
Correct.
produces an inhibiting hormone, pituitary will inhibit the functioning of a hormone. Both the ways are. Okay? So now,
Got
in
it.
hypothalamus, okay, in the hypothalamus, there are neurosecretory cells present.
What?
That means there are nerve endings, yeah, neuron endings, which can produce hormones.
Oh. Oh.
Neurosecretory बोलते हैं. Okay, a proper connection between nervous system and endocrine system.
Okay, got it.
That is
Okay.
called the neurohormones.
Neurohormones. Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
Hypothalamus secretes two hormones, ADH and oxytocin.
Correct. Yes.
That is secreted by hypothalamus. Remember the names.
Yes. Oxytocin.
ठीक है?
Okay.
See
Yes.
this? ये देखो, ये hormones के नाम देखो.
Yeah.
Yes. The first one is ACRH.
ACRH.
There will be a lot of abbreviations. Now learn it. Corticotropin releasing hormone. या short
So
form
can you like say it again?
ACRH लिख के रख यहाँ पे. Adrenocorticotropin releasing hormone. Okay.
Okay, got it.
क्या करते हैं? See, kidney के ऊपर we have seen adrenal glands. Okay. In the adrenal gland, there are two regions. I said adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. You say adrenocortico. That means adrenal cortex.
Oh.
Tropin का मतलब stimulating. So adrenal cortex में से hormone release करने का stimulus.
Okay, got it. Easy.
Okay.
समझ गया.
There is a hormone called ACTH. Corticotropic hormone.
Okay, got it.
Produced by pituitary. तो hypothalamus से जो ACRH आते हैं, that stimulates the
Pituitary.
ACTH is from the pituitary.
Yes.
Okay, understand the connection. Hypothalamus, ठीक है? Hypothalamus से secrete होगा ACRH.
Yes.
ACRH will stimulate the pituitary.
Yes.
Pituitary will secrete ACTH.
Yes.
ACTH will stimulate the adrenal cortex.
Yes.
Adrenal cortex will release its hormones. Now, imagine the fantastic
Okay, got it.
that we have in our body. Again,
समझा. Got it. समझा.
ACRH and ACTH. Okay.
Yeah.
Next one, thyrotropin releasing hormone.
Thyroid. Either.
Concerned with the thyroid gland, but not directly.
Okay.
Hypothalamus. TRH, thyrotropin releasing hormone. It will stimulate the pituitary gland. It will produce TSH, stimulating hormone. TSH will go and stimulate the thyroid gland to produce
Oh my
the
god. Okay.
thyroid.
Okay, got it.
Now you understood this?
So can you repeat?
Okay. Hypothalamus
Hypothalamus.
producing TRH.
TRS produce किया.
TRH produce किया hypothalamus में. Yes. Pituitary को.
Okay.
Pituitary gets the stimulus. Pituitary produces TSH. TSH stimulates the thyroid gland.
Yes.
Thyroid gland will produce its own hormone, thyroxine.
Okay, got it.
Understood the link? अच्छी तरह से. Hypothalamus, TRH, pituitary, TSH, thyroid, thyroxine.
Got it. Yeah. ना अच्छा कैसे याद है सबको?
Yes. Okay. Third one देखो.
Yes.
Gonadotropin releasing hormone called GnRH. Gonads का मतलब है sex organs.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Gonadotropin, again the similar way. Hypothalamus, GnRH, pituitary. Pituitary में से there will be gonadotropins.
Correct.
Stimulate the ovaries or the testes to produce their hormones.
Okay, easy. Got it. समझ गया.
Yes, you are saying that hypothalamus is secreting something to stimulate
Yes.
the pituitary, then the pituitary is releasing something to
Yes.
stimulate the
Yes.
respective endocrine gland.
Yes.
Got it?
Got it. Got it. Got
Then
it.
prolactin inhibiting hormone, also called prolactostatin.
Lactostat.
Yes, see, always remember, always ऐसे याद रखो. Whenever the name of a hormone ends with tropin,
Tropin.
उसका मतलब it will stimulate. But
Stimulate. Yes.
if the name of the hormone ends with statin, it will inhibit.
Yes.
Tropin मतलब stimulate, statin.
Oh, okay.
Remember
Okay,
that.
okay. समझ गया.
Got
Wait,
it?
I'll write it.
क्या है या लिख के रखो.
Mm-hmm. Oh, इधर ही लिखा है. Okay.
Yeah.
Prolactin inhibiting hormone. It is already written. Prolactin.
Prolactostatin.
Oh है वो.
Prolactostatin.
Prolactostatin. Got it.
Called as the prolactin inhibiting hormone.
Okay, got it.
Whenever ये hormone का नाम देख, the word is lacto. Lacto किसको बोलते हैं हम लोग? Associated with?
Milk.
Yeah.
Lactobacillus.
Correct. Very good. So when we associate lacto with milk, so यहाँ milk मतलब which gland?
Milk मतलब this.
Only one gland which produces milk. Which is the gland which produces milk for the young ones?
What is it called?
Mammary glands.
Mammary glands. Yes, correct.
That's the reason mammals करके group का नाम है ना animalia में. So mammary glands are the unique glands. So here when lactostatin नाम से पता चलता है it is associated with mammary glands.
Yes, correct.
Inhibiting. Okay, so see, imagine the situation. A woman has given birth to a child.
Yes.
After the child delivery, the woman is in the lactating period.
Okay.
The woman is producing milk from the mammary glands to feed the young one. But the young one can go on for a few months, after which it has to stop. Getting it? So after age of the child, when the lactation must stop, there is the hormone produced by the hypothalamus, prolactostatin, which tells the pituitary gland to stimulate the mammary gland to stop producing the hormone prolactin.
Oh, ऐसे भी होता है. Okay. Okay, I didn't know that.
Switch क्या मिल्क बनाने का बंद करना है करके.
Yeah.
Ultimately hormone. That's why inhibition is also needed sometimes.
Okay, got it.
Clear. Then somatostatin. Whenever we say somatic, it means
somatic cells.
Body cells.
Yes.
So somatostatin का मतलब है release of the hormone from the pituitary must inhibited. See, after a certain age in the life of human beings, we don't grow. After the age of 18, 20 and all, the growth ultimately declines or becomes steady.
Okay, yes.
Age के बाद growth को अगर inhibit करना हो तो there should be some hormonal stimulus. Otherwise, growth hormone from the pituitary will be constantly released. So imagine a person who is 90, 100 years of age, वो कितना ऊंचा रहेगा?
Yes.
We grow only up to a certain height or something. So ये होता है somatostatin की वजह से at the right age.
Somatostatin, yes.
Similarly, somatotropin in the younger age, the person has to grow. So that will be stimulating the release of the growth hormone.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, then see the other two, GRP and GIP.
Graph.
Both of them are associated with stomach, gastric.
Gastric, oh yes.
Human nutrition, we have learned the physiology of that, correct? So when the food enters the stomach, that the stomach cells must produce the gastric juice for the digestion.
Yes, correct.
But when the food is not there or it has been digested and passed out into the intestine, the gastric juice production must be inhibited also.
Correct.
Certain
Yes.
situations when the gastric juice must be stimulated and there are situations when the gastric juice must be inhibited. ये दोनों hormone either releasing or inhibitory.
Yes, correct.
Got it now?
Got it.
Hypothalamus is able to control the working of the pituitary gland.
Okay, got it.
Did you understand hypothalamus properly?
Yes.
अच्छी तरह से?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.